We spoke earlier about an independent judiciary. Are the courts independent of influence from the other branches? Going back to the King of England we spoke about, he controlled the courts, could force them to come to whatever decision he wanted. But we need the interpretation of law to be separate from all other government functions and influence if we want a truly democratic nation. The rule of law has to be separate from political influence, separate from influence by the executive branch, for example, and the legislative branch. The courts are expected to be a neutral arbiter of what is right and what is wrong, enforcing the law, deciding whether laws are constitutional, things like that. So if this is the case, they need to be out of influence by the politicians. How true is this? And we'll talk about that a lot when we get to the Supreme Court chapter and things like that. The next one, which is a big topic, and we'll skim through it very quickly here and come back to it throughout the course and the discussions. Equality. Are people equal? Do they have the same ability to influence government? Do they have the same ability to pursue policy? Do they have the same rights as everyone else? Think about all the different ways. We have economic equality, we have political equality, equality of opportunity, equality under racial, gender, sexual preference, all these sorts of ideas. What is equality? What does it mean? How equal do we need to be if we want to call ourselves a democratic nation? Because implicit in the idea of a democracy is the one person, one vote. Every person's vote should count the same. Everyone's voice should be heard the same. How well do we do this in America? I have here others. We'll probably talk about it in class, see if we can come up with any others. But think about that. Think about what else would you expect from a democratic nation. I've spoken about this a little bit, but then this all sort of begs the question of how successful is America on each of these criteria? Do we have proper checks and balances? How fair are our elections? How free is our media? How independent is our judiciary? How equal are we? And my goal here isn't to give you the answers. That's not the goal of a liberal arts class, is to, just feed you answers and, brainwash you, basically. The goal here is to have you critically think about these ideas. Think about circumstances under which these are true and under which they're not for America. How democratic are we? How democratic do we want to be? And opportunities to improve our government, trade-offs if we make any changes. What's going to happen? How does this work? What do you want to do? I spoke a minute ago about the idea of there's trade-offs if we make any changes, and that's one of the big things I want you to take from my class is we've solved most of the easy problems. The ones left are all difficult and involve trade-offs on some of these things between liberty and equality, between, freedom and democracy, things like that. So the main point of what I want you to get from this slide is to think about the feedback that occurs from each level from everything we do. I'm going to repeat this several times throughout the course, but nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything that happens in one branch of government affects other branches of government. Everything that one level of government does affects the others. Everything that affects one group of people affects all the others, and every policy affects all future policies. Nothing happens in a vacuum. See, I just repeated it for a second time. There are no easy solutions, despite what cable news commentators say and what internet commenters and YouTube commenters tell you. Nothing drives me crazier. I cannot watch cable news because I just cringe at how many of the commentators on there just voice simple, easy solutions and are just partisan hacks. And really, I don't care what network you watch. This is what they do. They have simple solutions because they're not capable of thinking beyond the simple partisan hackery that the cable news networks want them to do. You all are smart, educated people, presumably interested in political science and politics, living within about 50 miles of our nation's capital. Use the skills you learn here to think about solutions for the problems and the complexity of this system. There's a ripple effect here where anything you do has far-reaching effects, so think about how to anticipate those problems and deal with them going forward.